Please rise if you are able. You can sit. Thank you, everyone. And we're just going to open with one of Frieda's favorite hymns. And I believe you have it with your insert, the printed version. I was here to hear your morning cry.
To hear your morning cry, I'll be there when you are old. I rejoice the day you were baptized to see your life unfold. I was there when you were but a child, with a faith to suit you well. In a blaze of light, wandered off to find where demons dwell. When you heard the wonder of the word, I was there to cheer you on. You were raised to praise the living Lord, to whom you now belong. If you find someone to share your time, and you join your hearts as one, I'll be there to make your verses rhyme from dusk till rising sun. In the Middle Ages of your life, not too old, no longer young, I'll be there to guide you through the night, complete what I've begun. And the evening gentle closes in, and you shut your weary eyes. I'll be there as I have always been, with just one more surprise. I was there to hear your morning cry. I'll be there when you are old. I rejoice the day you were baptized to see your life unfold.
Good afternoon. You may be seated. I'm Sandra Smith, and I am going to be leading the worship service for Frieda and for her family today. And thank you for joining us in the celebration of her life, and to any that were able to join us online. It's good to know that you're thinking of us as well. I want to acknowledge this service was prepared by Shauna Mack, whom I hope also receives comfort from the prayers and scriptures during our service today. You will see that she also found a friend in Frieda. If you bow your heads for a prayer. Loving God, For a life well lived, we give thanks. For love shared and good memories, we give thanks. For smiles and laughter and tears, we give thanks. For lessons taught and lessons learned, we give thanks. For gifts shared with this community and beyond, we give thanks. For patience and kindness, generosity and faithfulness, we give thanks. For faith and hope, we give thanks. For cribbage games and coffee visits, we give thanks. For sunrises and sunsets, birds and the beauty of nature, we give thanks. For music and song and shared wisdom, we give thanks. For the privilege of knowing Frieda, we give thanks. For an opportunity to gather to say farewell, we give thanks. Gracious God, stay with us, making your presence known, giving us the support and strength that we need. Be with Frieda's family as they adjust to her absence. Gift them with the time they need to mourn, the comfort from family and friends, and joy in her memory. Amen. So we're going to go into our scripture readings, and some of Frieda's grandchildren are going to do the readings for us today. So Alex and Andrew and Alex, are reading from Colossians chapter 3, verse 12 to 16.
You are the people of God. He loved and chose you for his own, so then you must clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, and gentleness, and patience. Be tolerant with one another, and forgive one another whenever any of you has a complaint against someone else. You must forgive one another just as the Lord has forgiven you. And to all these qualities add love, which binds all things together in perfect unity.
The peace that Christ gives is to guide you in the decisions you make, for it is to this peace that God has called you together in one body. And be thankful. Christ's message in all its fullness must live in your hearts. Teach and instruct one another with all wisdom. Sing psalms, hymns, and sacred songs. Sing to God with thanksgiving in your hearts.
And Jacqueline is going to read from Romans chapter 8, verse 35 and verse 37 to 39.
Who then can separate us from the love of Christ? Can trouble do it, or hardship, or persecution, or hunger, or poverty, or danger, or death? No. In all these things we have complete victory through him who loved us. For I am certain that nothing can separate us from his love, neither death nor life, neither angels nor other heavenly rulers or powers, neither the present nor the future, neither the world above nor the world below. There is nothing in all creation that will ever be able to separate us from the love of God, which is ours through Christ Jesus our Lord.
And Mike is going to read Psalm 46, chapter 1 and chapter 7 to 8.
God is our shelter and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Come and see what the Lord has done. See what amazing things he has done on earth.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank all of you for getting up and sharing in Grandma's service. And she would have loved the little one sitting in the chair up front. Bob, are you going to do the eulogy now? Okay. Do I get to sit up here?
Should be good now. Frieda Hogg passed away on March 22nd, 2023, at the Kerrobert Hospital at the age of 98. Frieda passed peacefully with family in her presence. After being able to visit and say goodbye and give her love. Frieda is predeceased by her husband John Gavin Hogg, parents Reinhold and Minnie Sperling, brothers Norman, Ted, and Bob, and daughter Patricia Maurice. Frieda was born in Tramping Lake, Saskatchewan, March 11th, 1925, the third of 4 siblings. She grew up in the town of Tramping Lake and on the family farm just southwest of town. She often told stories of meeting her lifelong friend, Kay Rolston, Kay McRae at the time, in town when her family first moved there, when at the age of 5 she asked Kay if she would play with her as they lived just down the street. They have kept in touch for 93 years, traveled together, and most recently had a great visit in Medicine Hat in early March 2023 to celebrate Frieda's 98th birthday and Kay's 100th birthday. A sad moment in Frieda's childhood was the passing of her younger brother Norman in 1941. She often spoke of his kind, gentle nature and his wonderful singing voice. A story that was often told was of Norman looking out the window. Excuse me. Norman was looking out the window one day in early spring and telling her that today seems like a pretty good day for crocuses. And then went out into the pasture in search of a bouquet for the house. Frieda loved him very much and missed her little brother after his passing. Even in her later years, she would become very emotional when talking about Norman. He was a gem. She attended school in Tramping Lake up to grade 10, took grade 11 by correspondence, and completed grade 12 in Kerrobert. She then went to normal school, or teaching school, in 1943 for 6 weeks to prepare her for her first teaching job, which she often commented was woefully lacking to actually prepare her for a country teaching job. She took further teachers' college training in 1946, and then 3 university level classes for her permanent teaching certificate. Frieda taught school for 8 years, from 1943 to 1951 at country schools: Panama, Happy Land, Naperville, Ear Hill, Jellicoe, and 1 year at the Kerrobert School. All the schools were near to the Kerrobert area in Saskatchewan. Frieda grew up in the Depression in the dirty 30s, and her experiences shaped who she was. She was efficient and never excessive, as she did not want anything to go to waste, which was typical of a typical trait of women of the era. Her family experienced both giving and receiving of charity, and she made sure that she continued to donate to charities and provide support for those less fortunate when she was able. One of Frieda's fondest memories was of the 5-week bus trip that she went on in 1950 to Mexico and back. It must have been the granddaddy of the present-day bus trips with fewer services. The pictures of the trip show the units, which it appears were more like fifth-wheel stock trailers rather than buses. The accommodations of the bus seats, the bus seats converted into upper and lower bunks, and they slept on the buses. The trip was organized by a company for a teachers group and departed from Regina. The travelers shared the chores of cooking and cleaning on the trip, with groups alternating daily for each activity. No restaurants for every meal on this trip. Frieda saw many wondrous sights on the way, including the Grand Canyon, Yellowstone Park, Yosemite, Bryce Canyon, Crater Lake, Tijuana, the Passion Play in South Dakota, and many more. Quite an adventure for 1950, all for the princely sum of $120. In July 1951, she married John Gavin, or Jack Hogg, at her family farm near Tramping Lake. She stated one of her most significant accomplishments was raising her 5 kids to be the great persons that they are. Jack passed away in October 1977 after a lengthy illness. Life was not easy for Frieda, raising her family with no running water, tending to a huge garden, helping as much as she could with the farming, cooking and sewing for her big family. She had said she planned to always be prepared to know what to do should Jack collapse in the yard or field due to his health issues. After Dad passed away, Mom was able to embark on a journey of home and self-improvement. We had running water installed, which most people today could not imagine being without. She took some cooking classes, and I recall that for a few years, we would have Oriental food for holidays. Lots of egg rolls and stir-fried dishes, which showed her adventurous side. She also took painting classes and worked at it quite diligently, developing skills in landscapes, working on the intricacies of shading clouds, trees, grasses, and mastering the skill of perspective for her country scenery interests. She became quite good, and there are many of her projects gracing the walls of her family's homes. She did not have an interest in trying to paint portraits or wildlife, and I recall she told me she did not have the mindset for it and enjoyed the work that she did. She painted quite consistently for quite a few years, then she stopped. I once asked her why she did not paint anymore, and she said she had gotten it out of her system. We think she was very good at it, but she was very critical of her own work and had just lost interest. I guess there were other challenges to tackle. Frieda lived on the farm until the late 80s, when she moved into the town of Kerrobert, and there she continued to pursue her interests of music, spirituality, and biblical study, reading, completing crossword puzzles, in addition to spending time with family. She was an active member in her community, an avid member of the Kerrobert Seniors Club, the Jellicoe Fireside Circle, Dawsland 4-H Light Horse Club, Jellicoe 4-H Beef Club, UCW, and others. Mom kept in email touch with a small group of ladies nearly every evening. They were called the Sacred Seekers. They shared thoughts about what they had experienced that day that reminded them of the glory of creation. They and their relationship were very special to Frieda, and they will share some thoughts later here in the celebration. Mom loved playing card games. They were a big part of the country farm community. Crib tournaments, whist drives, and many dark winter evenings. Whenever and wherever she was visiting with family or friends, she would always say, "Who is up for a game?" and get out the cards. She taught all of her kids how to play different card games, but her favorite was cribbage. She also taught all of her grandkids and lots of their friends as well. She played crib with her mother, Minnie, and they kept track of wins and losses for years, if I recall correctly. And she'd tell me that when she was getting too far ahead in the tally, she would try to throw games on purpose, which made my granny very mad. Granny wanted to win or lose, fair or square. Frieda kept up this tradition when she was visiting with Mary Lou, and they would play multiple games every day and track who was up or down. She often said she did not have the luck that Mary Lou did, but she was always willing to give it another go. Lauren Scholen told me of a crib tournament where he was paired with Frieda, so he thought that they would be able to clean up because they were both pretty good players. But Lady Luck is fickle, and it turned out that they did win a prize, but it was the booby prize because they didn't win a game. Mom often played crib at the Haven and had Evelyn Syme as a partner for many years. When Evelyn was no longer available to play, Frieda taught a new Pioneers Haven resident, Tony Clark, how to play. After she taught Tony how to play, they became standard partners. Tony has a vision handicap, so playing was not easy. Mom was very patient and took the time to teach Tony the game, as she had taught many of us to love the game. Tony told me after Mom passed that it meant a lot to her. She attended Friday afternoon games of Pepper down at the Seniors Hall, as well as the weekly evening shuffling sessions that were held for several years in town. For a few years, she was part of a group who would go bowling every week in Kindersley. It kept her very active, and she really enjoyed those outings. During the years that Mom was raising her family, writing newsy letters to accompany Christmas cards was always high on her priority list. During that time, she kept in contact with a group of fellow teachers she had met and become good friends with while attending normal school and the summer school sessions. They mostly married farmers and took on the work involved in raising families on farms in various areas in Saskatchewan. We're not sure whether or not she ever saw any of the gals again in person. However, they maintained their friendships through the letters that they faithfully wrote to each other at Christmas time. Newsy letters were to lead to an actual news reporting, as Frieda became a correspondent for the local papers of the Jellicoe and District News, which became the Jellicoe Jottings. Many will recall her reports of neighbors motoring to faraway towns to visit relatives, friends visiting and enjoying refreshments and dainties, and her wonderful descriptions of the local events. I remember visiting town with Mom when she would have to drop off her typewritten hard copy report before the deadline to make the weekly paper. Jean would often write great letters to Mom and include detailed stories of her hiking and traveling adventures, which Mom would then include in her jottings, where she would publish parts of the letters and create cliffhanger endings in her reports, then complete the story the following week. Frieda knew how to keep an audience. Mom had wonderful, neat cursive writing. She would keep a diary of daily events in standard-sized calendars, which were very small spaces. I think those were like her first reporting jobs. She kept the calendars for years, and it is like reading a history book when you look at them. She would record the weather, events on the farm, and the family, and it was amazing how much information she could put into such a small space. Mike looked back at his calendar, at the calendar of the day he was born, and the report included, butchered 25 chickens, Patsy had a boy. The same with my son Andrew. Went bowling, Norma had a boy. She had an old manual typewriter that she used when she started reporting, then graduated to an electric typewriter. She decided to get a computer to be able to write and edit the reports more easily, so she was an early computer adopter. She loved her computers, and it enabled her to keep in touch with her far-flung family via email and Skype after her hearing loss impacted her ability to talk on the phone. It also made it easy to play crib on the computer, and many people who followed Frieda on Facebook would see her post, waiting for Bob to play crib, even when I had already sent an invitation for a game, so I was really waiting for her to play. It wasn't always me. Mom enjoyed traveling, and the bus trip in 1950 was just the start. She took a couple more long bus trips with Kay Rolston to northern Canada and Alaska, and another one to the Maritimes. During those trips, she and Kay would write poems about what they saw on their tours, something to keep them busy, occupied on the many road hours they spent between destinations. In 1998, she flew to Houston to visit with my sister Sheila. Mom was reluctant to fly, but was convinced to take the trip somehow. She quite enjoyed the visit, and I recall being so excited that now that she had gotten over her fear of flying, she would be able to get to the north to visit Jean, and the world would be her oyster. When she got home, she said, that was it. No more flying. I think I heard her say if God had intended her to fly, she would have been given wings. Now, I may have misquoted Mom on that, but it was her position that she would never fly again. Mom loved animals, and there was usually a dog or a cat around the house. One of her favorite cats was named Shawnee, a black tomcat that adopted our farm as his home in the 70s. He originally belonged to Berger and Evelyn Syme, but one day as he was wandering the countryside, he decided he would live at our farm. The Symes would come over and pick up Shawnee, take him home, and the next day he was back at our farm. They tried a few things to keep him home. They tied him up with a string. He ate through it. They fixed him. It didn't fix his wanderings. Mom said that they decided if he wanted to live there, I guess they would let him. He was a farm resident until he died at the age of 19. Mom would often marvel at how Shawnee chose us. I would often say, what did he think about? What made him change us? What thoughts go through his head? We often talked of Shawnee in later years. She also had a wonderful cat named Vince in town, who was a great companion. She often speculated he was part Maine Coon cat due to his long hair, color pattern, and fluffy tail. Frieda adored her grandchildren, and spending time with them was valuable to her. They were special to her, and she would do anything for them. There was always a pot of chili on the stove when Mike or Jack came for lunch, which was a staple in their diet. Our boys called her Piano Grandma, as she had a piano in her house, which was a marvelous treasure. She loved playing piano and played for the senior songsters for almost 30 years. With the kids, she would often play a trick when they were little, holding out a closed hand and asking if they could guess what was in it. At the start, they would always think there was a treat in there, and when they opened her hand, she would say, "It's a huggy," and give them a hug. Well, they would figure it out pretty quick. And then when she would say, "What's in my hand?" they would come up and open her hand, thinking maybe there was a treat, but they were always going for a hug afterwards. Frieda continued this trick with her great-grandkids, Emerson and Noah, and they figured it out too. It was a Frieda thing, and she passed it on to generations. A few times over the past decade or so, Mom asked to go see the town of Tramping Lake on a road trip. We'd go and drive around town, look at the house Mom grew up in, reminisce about her childhood and the town as it was. We went to visit again in July 2022. We traveled the streets of Tramping Lakes many times. And I'm sure she was looking at the town and experiencing it as she did as a child. It was quite moving to see her so deep in her experiences, almost in a trance. And then, when we drove out of town, it was like she woke up again in the present. Mom complained about very little. However, she always viewed her loss of hearing as having a profound negative effect in her life. She became unable to visit on the phone, which made keeping in touch difficult. It was hard when she couldn't talk with her friend Kay, which she dearly missed. She decreased the number of group events that she had previously enjoyed due to her inability to hear what was being said and the surrounding noise associated with the gathering. But when visiting with her great-grandkids, she couldn't hear what the little kids said to her, but she loved them with open arms, and they loved her back. She was grateful for the limited hearing that hearing aids allowed her. Mom was a gardener, butcher, seamstress, musician playing the piano, artist and painter, baker, making a dozen loaves of bread at a time, and the house always smelled so delicious. Maker of preserves, crabapple jelly, raspberry jam, canned fruit, blanched and frozen peas, beans, and corn on the cob. She was a journalist, always a teacher. Card shark at cribbage, pinochle, oh hell, hearts, whist, and others. Chauffeur driving the kids around to 4-H sporting events, Meals on Wheels, delivering the supper to the field during harvest, and much more. She was truly a strong and amazing person. She loved her family and would be so excited to see her kids, grandkids, and was immensely excited to see her great-grandkids when we got together. Her good nature, sense of humor, and positive attitude will be missed by everyone who knew her.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. And of course, if you've had a beautiful life of 98 years, you have a lot to say about your mom. It was all very wonderful to hear. And all of the hymns today were Frieda's favorites, so if you know it, you sing out loud. We're going to do hymn number 563. In your printout, it's Jesus, You Have Come to the Lake Shore. And I'm sorry, I can't take my mics off, so you have to hear me too. and stand for the song. The family can seat if they like, but... We should have given you guys words. Jesus, you have come to the lake shore, looking neither for wealthy or wise ones. You only ask me to follow humbly. Oh, Jesus, with your eyes you have searched me, and while smiling have spoken my name. Now my boat's left on the shoreline behind me. By your side I will seek other seas. You know so well my possessions. My boat carries no gold and no weapons. You will find there my nets and my labor. Oh, Jesus, with your eyes you have searched me, and while smiling have spoken my name. Now my boat's left on the shoreline behind me. By your side I will seek other seas. You need my hands full of caring through my labors to give others rest, and constant love that keeps on loving. Oh, Jesus, with your eyes you have searched me, and while smiling have spoken my name. Now my boat's left on the shoreline behind me. By your side I will seek other seas. You have reached other oceans, ever longed for by souls who are waiting, my loving friend, as thus you call me. Oh, Jesus, with your eyes you have searched me, and while smiling have spoken my name. Now my boat's left on the shoreline behind me. By your side I will seek other seas. So Bob had mentioned Frieda's special friends in his eulogy, and they have given themselves the name the Sacred Seekers, and they've got some stories and things to share with us about Frieda. And I think you know most of them. Maybe, are you guys going to introduce yourselves, or? Yeah, all right.
We'll figure it all out. Two things, though. One thing, you talked about Frieda being a journalist, and I don't know about anyone else in the United Church. When we went downstairs for coffee, there was a little notepad that went around every Sunday. What did you do? Write it down. We need it in the paper. I was almost glad when the paper quit. Have you ever tried to figure out something exciting for the paper? Not necessarily. Also, while the first part of the service was going on, when the grandkids were reading the scriptures, those are all letters to people, to the Corinth and to others. And lots of the emails from Frieda talked about the letter to the family. And I thought how appropriate was the verses that Shauna had picked, where they were writing letters to you and me as the family. So that's it. I'm done. Well, not quite. Well, you ask, who are the sacred seekers? Sit back. Father Dan, are you listening? Because he wanted to know who we were before we got up here. He left. A true story, and it might have even happened. A long time ago, when the earth was flat, a couple of seekers, learners from our church, took a class at Calling Lakes on spirituality and different ways of finding the sacred in an everyday situation other than Sunday morning in church. And a part of that class was the importance of having a peer group at home in your own community to discuss the learnings of living and finding the sacred in each day. So thus began our Sacred Seeker group, which, by the way, was named by Felicitas, who was the administrator of this church at that time. From as few as 4 of us to more than 10, we emailed each other every day, unless somebody's computer wasn't working, where we felt, where we sensed the sacredness of that day. Just like a prayer at the end of the day, lifting concerns as well as just mentioning the events of the day. But all in the silence of love and life and awe and wonder. That was the beginning, and Frieda was one of the original peer group and continued up until the end. Another quick story. True, might have even happened. I had a dream. And in this dream, I was standing in the threshold of a door. And people passed through, they stopped and looked at me, smiled, and handed me a gift. And then went on through the door onto the rest of their journey. They stopped and handed me a gift and continued on their journey. When I woke from this dream, I realized that every person gives a gift to cherish. Every person you meet, each one of you will encounter somebody and you'll leave them with a gift. Whether it was a tear mentioning your mom, or a smile, or a little one running around. They leave us with a gift. Everybody. Well, Frieda left us with many gifts to show us how to love and live in faith, through creation, through community, and that includes the family, and of course, cribbage. But all in awe and wonder. And she would often say, those jet streams, I wonder where they're going and where they're coming from. Our Sacred Seekers group today consists of Ellen Wilson from Saskatoon, Chandra Schraefel, Paulette Holliday from Luseland, who's unfortunately can't be with us today, and myself. So this time, Ellen and Chandra are going to say a few words as we think of over 20 years of emailing every day. It's probably 25 years. And if I kept track as good as Frieda did, it might have even been longer.
When I became part of the Sacred Seekers email group, some time had passed before I got to meet Frieda in person. Along with the other wonderful women, Frieda played an important role in my recognition of sacred in places and experiences I wouldn't have expected. Most of my relationship with her has been via emails, with only a handful of in-person meetings. Yet I feel like we've been connected for a much longer time. And very early on, I was gifted with feeling her love, adding richness to my life. Her wisdom and integrity shone through in her matter-of-fact acceptance of whatever reality she was experiencing. And her deep faith kept her positive, which has always been an inspiration. Most profoundly, I've been awed by her desire to keep learning and the wisdom she brought to many situations. I was inspired and often challenged by her veracity for reading without judgment or prejudice about many difficult and disturbing times in history. And just as recent as late January and early February of this year, these titles would appear in her emails. And she shared when she finished such books as Martin Luther King's Story, The German Wife, The Nazis Knew My Name, Mussolini's Daughter, The Light After the War, The Girls with No Name, A Guest of the Right, and a book about Chernobyl. She did, however, mention a book about the life of Elizabeth Taylor, but didn't feel compelled to finish that one. Yet her appreciation for the ordinary was shared in which game show she slept through, which birds graced her sight, and her appreciation for those with whom she was in contact on any given day. She epitomized aging gracefully. Her deep love and appreciation for her family shone through in all of her messages. She was so proud and grateful for each one of you.
I just want to add that I was late to the party, so I don't think it's been 25 years, but close. I took some time to go through the emails from Frieda that are still on my computer. Sometimes procrastination can be a blessing. These are some of the things she noticed and found sacred in her days. A description of the clouds, an account of what kind of birds and how many. She liked the robins a lot. A decision to continue with the morning exercises at the Haven because it's good for her. The hoarfrost, the blue shadows on the snow, whether or not it was windy, the shades of green in the grass, the wildlife, deer, geese, maybe a fox, on the way to Edmonton to visit family. The movement of time, remembering to change her calendar each month, her brother's birthdays and how long they've been gone, how much snow or rain, details of the show about insects on the Love Nature channel, plants blooming, trees blossoming, and leaves falling. Frieda saw it all, and she was an intentional observer because she didn't just see it, she wondered at it all. She appreciated it all. She was grateful for the gifts of the natural world given to us by the Creator. It was all sacred for her. Everything Frieda wrote in her emails was a reminder of God in her midst, of God bringing life and mystery to our lives. Richard Rohr describes a mystic as one who has moved from mere belief systems to actual inner experience. By that definition, Frieda was a mystic. And the gift of a mystic is to bring awareness to others of the interconnectedness of everything and everyone and the divine. Frieda shared that gift daily over and over, showing us and teaching us to look for the sacred and to trust that God is there, even if and when we don't understand. We are so blessed to have had her example. Ellen speaks of Frieda being her inspiration. Paulette always calls Frieda her hero. We all want to be like Frieda. It has been so strange not receiving those emails, and I get a lump in my throat each night when I start to send my email and that little prompt pops up asking if I want to add Frieda to the recipients. But then I smile because I treasure that reminder of her each day, just as I treasure the times I sit and look out the window, noticing the birds and the grass and the clouds, just as she taught me to do. As Paulette wrote, when I see blossoms and hear birds and see jet contrails or see a houseplant growing or read an interesting thing or enjoy a little party lunch, I think of Frieda. What a gift she has given us. She will truly live on in all whose lives she has touched. Thank you.
One of her songs, one of the hymns that she always wanted every Sunday, it seemed, when I was leading worship, was "Deep in our hearts, there's a common vision. Deep in our hearts, there's a common song." And that's what we were, a common vision and a common song working together to find the sacred.
Thank you, ladies. How do we get into that group? So I'm going to read Shauna's meditation, but I just wanted to say my last visit with Frieda was the day of her birthday. And I always dropped off the bulletins for the Pioneer Haven for every Sunday, and Frieda was the one who handed them out. And every time I went to her door, she was always reading. So on her birthday, I brought her a bookmark and then asked her what she was doing special for her birthday. And she said, "It's just another day. I'm doing laundry." So yeah, she didn't make much to do of herself, but she certainly made all of us feel special. So these are Shauna's words, and they're beautiful. Wonder is the opposite of taking for granted. Wonder is a natural response to the world around us. It is with us, part of us, from the moment we are born. But it is also something learned and encouraged or nurtured by those who wonder. And you're going to see so many things that Bob mentioned, that the ladies mentioned, that Shauna has. It all intertwines together. Frieda viewed the world with a healthy dose of wonder. She loved the world of creation and celebrated the beauty, diversity, and creativity of the world and those of us in it. In the lyrics of "Teach Me, God, to Wonder," a hymn by Walter Farquharson, could have been written about Frieda. And Shauna has typed a set of the lyrics and then typed what she sees or how she sees Frieda fitting into that. Teach me, God, to wonder. Teach me, God, to see. Let your world of beauty capture me. Wonder spurs creativity by activating imagination. Music and learning were a large part of who Frieda was. She questioned and thought about things, the spiritual versus the literal, our place in the world and our relationship with God, the world, and each other. She often analyzed the meaning of hymn lyrics and offered suggestions for something more fitting for the ones on a Sunday service. She didn't close herself off to new ideas. She became more open as she aged, bucking the trend. Frieda saw the beauty of the world and was captivated by it, whether remarking on the glow and vibrant colors of a sunrise or sunset, joyfully proclaiming the sighting of the first robin in spring, or capturing the subtle beauty of the prairie landscape in her paintings. Frieda saw the world as wondrous and lovely. Let me, God, be open. Let me loving be. Let your world of people speak to me. As followers of Jesus, we strive to be open and loving, able to see and respect our neighbors as neighbors given us by God. Jesus reminded his followers and his critics from Mark 12, chapter 28 to 31, of the first commandments. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. We touch this commandment of engagement in the moment of wonder. The identification of the second commandment is, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. This grows naturally out of the first. There is no other commandments more important than these two, we are told. Have you got time to stay for coffee today? That's what Frieda would say after the church service or the sing-song that Shauna or I had led at Pioneer Haven. She loved a good visit, catching up on news of family and friends, the trait that made her perfect in her role of the community news writer. Her newspaper column was often the first thing a person would turn to in the Kerrobert Citizen, checking out who had motored where for the weekend, which event had happened, followed by coffee and dainties, and reading the latest installment of Jean's letter. Let me, God, be ready. Let me be awake. In your world of loving, my place take. Not only was Frieda a loving mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, family member, and friend, but she was also a giving, loving member of Kerrobert United Church. Frieda arrived at church early for many years, preparing the coffee and tea for after-church fellowship, which she never missed. She passed that job on to me. She volunteered for every church event and fundraiser and was often the face that greeted people at the door of the fall supper or the pancake supper. And when Marlene Thompson was no longer able to play, Frieda returned to the piano bench to provide live music for the church service and continued to accompany the church services and sing songs at Pioneer Haven. Teach me, God, to know you, hear you when you speak, see you in my neighbor when we meet. Wonder gives rise to curiosity and a desire to know more, to see more deeply, to identify and make connections. It is often a moment of wonder when we see the humanity of another. It's often a moment of wonder when we see acts of courage, of selfless love, of sacrifice, of truth-speaking and truth-living. Wonder allows us to see another's gift, the richness of their thoughts and ideas, the struggles that have so profoundly affected their lives. Laughter and tears may lead us into understanding and appreciation of another's situation or experience. Frieda enjoyed meeting new people and getting to know their stories. She was often the first person to greet a new face in church and to introduce herself and others and to extend a friendly welcome. Praise to you be given, love for you be lived, life be celebrated, joy you give. In the face of Frieda's death, let us affirm life, the goodness to be found in living and loving, the goodness to be realized in and remembered through an admirable life. Let us truly celebrate her life, the love she shared with her family and her community, and the wonder and awe with which she approached life. Wonder is the gift we share. Let us remember to share that gift with all we meet. And is Chandra ready? We've got another hymn, and it's number 624, Give to Us Laughter. Give to us laughter, O source of our life. Laughter can banish so much of our strife. Laughter and love give us wholeness and health. Laughter and love are the coin of true wealth. To us laughter as sign of deep joy. Let us in laughing find Christian employ. Joining with stars and with bright northern lights, laughing and praising and sharing delights. Why do we worry that we will lose face? Why act like king for the whole human race? Often in family, often with friends, laughing at pride causes anguish to end. Even in sorrow and hours of grief, laughter with tears brings most healing relief. God give us laughter and God give us peace. Joys of your promise among us increase. Jacqueline, don't worry about that little man. He's given us lots of laughter and smiles. Good. Okay, Marj is going to...
back of that insert?
It's here. Or do you need a big...
No, I got it.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a copy of the new creed on the back of your inserts?
I'm not sure if they do. They say they do.
Okay.
Look at how organized we are.
It says to stand as you're able, but I'm going to suggest that you stay seated. One more thing before we do this United Church Creed. It's another gift, a gift from the United Church to everyone that believes in God. But also, I was thinking, this is conference weekend, Presbytery, the conference of the whole province, and Frieda went a lot of times, so a lot of people would remember her there this weekend. We are not alone. We live in God's world. We believe in God, who has created and is creating, who has come in Jesus, the Word made flesh, to reconcile and make new, who works in us and others by the Spirit. We trust in God. We're called to be the church, to celebrate God's presence, to live with respect in creation, to love and serve others, to seek justice and resist evil, to proclaim Jesus crucified and risen, our judge and our hope. In life, in death, in life beyond death, God is with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God. Frieda memorized this.
Oh, I was just going to say, you got to let them know.
Good for her. Yeah. But it was at a time when we were studying a verse at a time, so it was done over a period of time. Would you bow in prayer? Most loving God, your embrace supports us in life. Your Spirit watches over us in death. Help us to feel your loving presence. Remind us that we are not alone, that you are with us always. Remember the gifts that Frieda has left us. Remember the hymns that she likes to sing. Remember to play crib once in a while. May we remember Frieda in love, trusting her to your keeping. In the name of the one who taught us to pray, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Father Dan, she did appreciate you coming to the home. She appreciated Shauna and Sandra coming. She would write about it constantly, about the ones who come to worship with them at the Pioneer Haven. And you were on the list too, so there you go.
Thank you, Marj. And then just a little farewell that Shauna has written. Dear friend, loving and faithful servant of God, may the song of birds welcome you with their joy, and the quiet murmur of streams invite you to enter. May the tenderness of the earth embrace you softly, and the freshness of rain fall upon you with care. May the colors of the sunset tuck you in each night, and the freedom of the breeze carry you to beautiful places. May the stars from whose dust you were formed smile on your return. If you bow your head in the benediction. We gathered to share and care today, and we grieve, but we also gathered to celebrate, to honor, and to bid farewell. Let us go feeling the loving presence of our Creator as we carry our memories of Frieda with us. Let us go remembering the things Frieda taught us through her example. Let us go eager to visit, quick to smile, ready to laugh, and always ready to welcome all. Let us go with loving hearts to enjoy the beauty of nature and care for God's creatures, remembering to gaze at the world in awe and wonder. Let us go in peace, remembering that God is with us. We are not alone. We live in God's world. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen. And I just wanted to give a thank you to Shauna and the Sacred Seekers, the choir, and Chandra for their parts in helping celebrate Frieda, and join the family for visiting, sharing of stories, and comforting each other while you partake in lunch and refreshments in the church basement. Dainties. Oh, good one. Yes, dainties. Absolutely. So let's finish with hymn number 713, I See a New Heaven. I see a new heaven, I see a new earth, as the old one will pass away, where the fountain of life flows, and without price goes to all people who abide in the land. There on the banks of river bright and free, yielding her fruit, firm in her root, the tree of life will be. I see a new heaven, I see a new earth, as the old one will pass away, where the fountain of life flows, and without price goes to all people who abide in the land. There where death dies, our lives are born again, body and soul struggling whole, like flowers after the rain. I see a new heaven, I see a new earth, as the old one pass away, where the fountain of life flows, and without price goes to all people who abide in the land. There where the darkness brings visions from above, there where the night bearing new light reveals the promise of love. I see a new heaven, I see a new earth, as the old one will pass away, where the fountain of life flows, and without price goes to all people who abide in the land. There where we work, the love of healing hands, labor we must, treasure our trials, to build a promised new land. I see a new heaven, I see a new earth, as the old one will pass away, where the fountain of life flows, and without price